I would like to call to order the ARB work session for tonight, Wednesday, May 18th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Hallett.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
King.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Utz.
Here.
Right into it.
All right. So we are going to be reviewing the Historic District Design Guidelines and giving our commentary on any potential or suggested changes in the language for the guidelines.
That is correct. So if you guys want to kind of start the discussion off of when you spent the last month reviewing the guidelines, what you found, what are areas of interest for updating or clarifying, we can just start there.
Would you like to go first?
I can start the conversation. I guess just comments on like organization you're asking for, information that will be helpful to have for our consideration, sort of the gamut. So I started just looking at the table of contents, how it's organized. Introduction, I think, was fine. Madam Chair, if we maybe talk about it that way, if we wanted to sort of tackle each sort of part of it. But overall, before we dive into it, was what do we want to see in an application? Minimum submission requirements. The plat, the types of materials we want submitted with it. General description. I don't think we need necessarily for a sign permit. We need a narrative, but sign permits fence permits we're trying to go administrative. Maybe we want to talk about that too as a total sidebar. Do we want to talk about those applications that would be administrative at the discretion of the zoning administrator? Basic requirements for the different types of applications we receive, decks, new versus new construction versus signs, sort of minimum requirements for each.
Yeah, I mean, we can go through kind of by section if we want to, and if we don't have comments, then we can just move along. I had one question. I know we've talked about the language of historic structures that are 50 years or older. Will that always stay? So is it just going to be a rolling 50 years? Do we need to change that language for?
It was modified in the zoning ordinance update back in the winter, so that would be reflected into our new update.
That's what I thought.
And all of that language that was updated.
What version are you looking at?
The one I have in my book. It's probably older.
Oh, yeah, because this one doesn't reference that.
Okay. Sorry, I went by hard copy.
No, that's fine.
The document I put in the work session, I should preface, is one that we had started working on previously with previous ARBs and that our town attorney had weighed in on with some comments on already. So that was our last stopping point on the update of the guidelines.
The one online or the one?
The one in the packet.
The one in the packet, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that Martin
Had taken a
Had
first
taken, okay.
look at.
Are his comments in here?
They're incorporated into it already.
Incorporated, okay.
Most of them.
Okay, is there any reason why he struck the list of contributing resources?
Needs to be redone.
Because it needs to be redone?
Is it not included in there?
So, yeah, the version that she has, it says in the introduction, the background and purpose of the architectural review board on page 4. There's in between the two paragraphs, it says, see Appendix D for a list of the town's historic structures, and that's not in the version. So I was trying to look again where they refer to the contributing resources list, which does have to be updated.
It's on page 24 of the agenda packet.
The list is there, but I was looking for the references to it in the document. Ooh, we got a bunch of blank pages. Excuse me.
Right, there's the list. Are you looking for the guidelines as to what makes it a contributing?
So we had in the zoning, sorry, get very bureaucratic here. So in the zoning ordinance rewrite, we had looked at updating the reference. We defined historic structures. We have those at 50 years or older, and then we had those designated historic by the comprehensive plan. So what I just picked up on is we have this Appendix D of historic structures, but we don't refer to it in the body of the document anymore.
That can be modified. This was done in 2019, so
Well, just one of those
things of
catches,
it have
yeah.
definitely changed, especially with our zoning ordinance update.
But yes, a definition of, sort of additional explanation of what's contributing resources would probably be a good idea.
I think what I have in my book is the same, it's the 2019.
Okay, I just noticed that citation was missing.
Let's see what this is.
So, background and purpose, that seems to be pulled from the, excuse me, I didn't need dinner. From the zoning ordinance. Also pulled from the comprehensive plan a little bit. Emily, did you have any suggestions on the introduction? Any things we need to update or look at?
Just general updates on how it's modified with our zoning text. I was thinking maybe we jump ahead and kind of skip the intro. We'll come back to that, at the end.
The B, sorry, Madam Chair. I'm gonna jump
Go
in.
ahead.
Approval by the ARB may be only one step required in the approval process. This is maybe with a suggestion of submission materials. And it would be better to have that here or have it, will be most helpful for you to, or is it still in the introduction, I guess?
I mean, I kind of think that this still applies pretty fairly across the board of what may additionally be required.
Okay.
I would think this is still the intro, though.
Okay.
I would maybe jump down.
Site design?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a certificate, yeah, I'm sorry, just to go back to C, we need to update that, still has the 14 days or whatever.
Okay.
Fences and walls?
My only comment on the fences and walls, so if we go down, I know we have examples of the signage that's allowed, and we have that for the fences too. Do we have anything that is not, we know just as a hard, not allowable? Or is it really just that?
I mean, that's up to you guys to make that decision and put that in
It's always
place.
it's at the discretion, so there's nothing we would say not allowed are,
If you say chain link fence is not allowed, we can certainly include that in here, but that's what we would write and put in here.
Oh, that's later on, it's, skip a page. Jump down to page 7. Page packet packet page 8, I guess. Screen fencing is discussed. No time will stockade, snow fencing, or exposed chain link fencing or barbed wire be allowed within the historic district.
Do you know where everything is on the pages?
What's it?
Where's that, on which page? Packet
Packet
page.
page 8.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, and I didn't,
Yeah.
okay.
If you scroll all the way to the top, there's like a gap between, if you scroll
Oh, right there, right, it's right
So
there,
there's
okay,
like a blank page jumping from the other one.
okay. Right, I do,
So, do you remember what, I don't remember what the offense was on board. Well, I shouldn't call it alternating board, remember I always call
That
it.
was pre my time here, I do not know. I put in, I believe in this update to allow it, because it is a very common style, and depending on who you ask what board-on-board fencing is, it depends what examples you'll get. So we just started calling it board fencing, and then we had instructions further down for it.
So this still says alternating board fences are not approved for new fences, notwithstanding Long Street Commons is special.
And then I would say we strike it.
Okay,
I mean, we have a lot of people who have done it throughout town.
I would agree. I would strike it. That's what I was curious if there are things that, we've allowed, and that would be one of them, so yes, I would suggest striking that.
because then under special instructions, we have sort of the instructions for each.
Well, right, and it says board fencing will be constructed, so if you're gonna put it in there. I know that that's talking about the replacement, but I would strike the board. Board fencing is not approved for new fences.
Something's discussed in section 2H. I'm sorry, the top of page 8, it says screen fencing is discussed as section 2H. On section 2H.
That is on. Because there's F.
This one ends at D.
I think we need to fix
Okay.
the 2H, because I don't know that there is a 2H.
So just go back to the other point, I guess, so.
Where is the search?
So,
Can you search by word in these? I don't know if you can.
You should be able to do Control F and search it, but looking at our original guidelines, I don't see anything that references to H.
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, Madam Chair, we jumped around. If we go back to types, okay, wood or wood look products in the style of picket board or split rail and wrought iron. Other fences such as ornamental and privacy fences will be considered on a case-by-case basis. Do we have any objection to plastics? We've allowed plastic before too, right? Or is that a wood look product?
It's up for the board to discuss.
Is there any?
We could add the language, vinyl, if that's a wood look, if that's what you're thinking,
That's what I was sort of posing to them, because there's vinyl that looks like wood. Is that a wood-looking product, or should we be more specific about?
I would add in the wood or wood look products, I would add a bullet that says, or either a bullet that says vinyl, or, I don't know that I would use the word plastic, but if you look at it in,
There's vinyl, there's that hardy plank, what's the other? guess that's a decking.
I mean, it is just called vinyl fencing,
Vinyl fencing?
yeah.
There's Trex as a product.
Well, we have vinyl fencing in front of Villages of Haymarket. We have vinyl fencing between the Baptist Church and the Van Meter project. That's all Van Meter fence. It's all plastic. So the consensus,
I
we're
would
okay
add-
with adding.
I would add a bullet of vinyl.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the other fence styles, is such as ornamental and privacy, would be considered on a case-by-case basis. Is that okay to leave that in there? Gives us some discretion to approve alternatives.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, is there anyone have any objections to the prohibited fencing? We have stockade. Stockade is the pickets that have they're really thin and have the, you buy them in like the 6-foot panels. and they're
Like
little tips.
exposed pickets, I guess you would, I
Yeah,
don't know.
let's see if I can Google it. Stockade.
I think that covers the not allowed. I don't think I've seen anything else in town.
Hurry up. That's a stockade fencing.
Yeah.
Emily, have you run into anyone that has issues with stockade fencing? Or wanted to do stockade fencing?
I have not.
Obviously barbed wire, razor wire, no. So chain link fencing, we have chain link fencing down at the water line place. On the other side of Pickle Bob's. Pickle Bob's, what is it now? Swirlies. That lot that's down there, it has the chain link fence with the plastic slats. Do we want to say that, okay, in a commercial or an industrial area, you can have chain link or other security fencing, but
I wouldn't say in a commercial area, unless we restrict it. Because, I mean, if you allow for chain link fencing, you could end up with that in the downtown historic area.
well, because the industrial Leeberry Shopping Center is all industrial zoned. Excuse me. Okay. I want to say Century Stair has chain link. AC Watts has chain link, but that was grandfathered.
I was gonna say, there is chain link right across from my house.
So, any amendments to, any changes to, leave it as is?
I would leave it as is. I mean, I don't know that we would see, hopefully we wouldn't see any requests for,
We struck alternating boards being prohibited.
yes.
Materials. Is that too ambiguous, or does that need more specificity?
Which section?
Materials, colors, and choice of materials for fences and walls shall complement and be consistent with the
I think you leave it. I mean, you want it to be enough at the ARB's discretion. If it's gonna meet all of the other things, I don't know if you have to, because you're already outlining the materials. Do you want me to see if I have a second?
No, it's okay. Hopefully the
That's-
microphone's not picking that up.
Because you've got types up there, so I think you're,
Okay, yeah, so,
I mean, you could just add a reference that says, to be consistent with types noted in whatever that section is, if you wanted to refer back to it in types.
okay,
But I don't think you need to do that.
and more specificity.
Yeah.
This is enough to say you can't have a pink wall in a red building? so.
Yeah, because it's still gonna be at our discretion.
Which, by the way, this references walls. Do we talk about walls in the guidelines?
Number 5.
Oh, we do. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. Special instructions. Picket fencing 1 to 3 inches. Board and fencing shall be 6-inch wide. Split rail. For split rail, a maximum of 3 rails is permitted. Any reason why it's 3? I'm sorry, I should be answering it since I administered these for a couple of years. Now that I look at these again, so what do you call the paddock fencing? That's what I'm saying. Do we want to allow paddock fencing? Paddock fencing is like the 4,
Isn't that board
Boards.
fencing?
that would be a board
No,
fencing.
I would, if you're gonna allow that kind, I would add it in as its own. I mean, it's very popular out more rural landscapes. I would say the split rail, if I had to guess, and this is just a guess, that they said no more than 3 because that's what's historic keeping with the battlefield that's nearby.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all 3. I don't think that there's any 4.
Trying to think what Bond,
Bond wanted to do or did paddock fencing.
we just called it board fencing, I guess. Do you think we
Read
should?
my time here.
I'm sorry. I'll stop looking at you.
I mean, I think we could note paddock fencing, but I would say it falls in a category of board fencing. Like if you're saying those boards have to be 6-inch.
I mean, the HOA, neighborhoods have to get HOA approval. I don't know that paddock fencing would be appropriate in all applications throughout town. Bond's house, you know, is very fitting for that style and that land area, but the next house over, maybe not so much, you know.
Okay, so is there a consensus to add paddock fencing as an option on a case-by-case basis, or just leave it alone?
I would leave it alone because I think if you put it in there, then then you open it up to, like, I think with the general guidelines that you give, that kind of steers people towards ideally what we'd like to see. And if you add too many different types, then I think you open it up to more people coming and saying, well, you said you could do board fencing, paddock fencing, and I want to do a paddock fence.
And it
Okay.
kind of falls under the bullet point, other fence styles such as ornamental and privacy will be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
So I think that it would fall under that section.
You could add it there if you wanted to specifically say ornamental, paddock, or privacy, but I don't know that you need to. I think,
Cool. And then partial or decorative fencing should be appropriate to the architecture of the parent building. Partial and or decorative fences are not to be used extensively along the property line. So is decorative different than ornamental? Need to define it?
I had a question on that. Does that mean where, I don't remember what house I don't think she ever came forward with she was gonna do an application, but maybe it didn't come through. And she had some ornamental fencing that was like a lower height. And I had seen this in another HOA packet where the partial or decorative fencing style was limited by height. So if it were in the front of the home or within a certain number of feet of the home, it was restricted to a certain height versus the other height. So, like if you,
You're talking about the black wrought iron wood
Yes.
fence? Okay, so that one was denied by the board, and then she was given an option to do another material, and she decided she was not gonna do so due to cost.
right, okay.
That was the one behind us. I
Right.
think because we had multiple styles. We had like board fencing in the back. We had the black plastic vinyl. Then was going to be the ornamental in front, and then another style. So it was a lot of different styles going on.
Right.
Do we need to distinguish between decorative and ornamental?
What would the difference be?
That's what I'm thinking. What does Google say? Ornamental versus.
Maybe decorative is like when people they do like the 4-foot fence in the back, but to get it the 6 feet, the upper 2 is, or the upper 1 foot, they have like a privacy fence, but the upper portion
You do like a
is
lattice
like a
or,
lattice or a see-through. I would think of that as decorative. I mean, the way it reads here.
I'm also wondering if this, right, if it's meant to be, since it says not to be used extensively along the property line. I don't know that I've seen it here, but where you would have, and I don't know that we would have any properties where it'd be applicable, but where you would have somebody, they want to put a little fence around in their front yard, like around their shrubbery or something like that, where most people would probably just do it, but above and beyond, like a regular garden decorative fencing. That's the only thing I could think. Maybe we put I don't know if you put a height requirement or you just leave it.
So I think right now in the ordinance, forward of the front of the building, it has to be, it's limited to 4 feet. And the back is 6. So the Google says both ornamental and decorative are referred to as metal fences. Ornamental are typically made from metal or steel and give the home property owners a chance to add rails, finials, scrolls, or rails to customize each picket. So maybe the decorative, like you said, like you go to Lowe's and you get that little decorative to put around your base of your tree or something.
Or like some people in the back maybe do, where you have like board on board, but then you have a couple sections that are like the lattice see-through for like plants and stuff.
Okay.
Trellis-like materials. I see that popping up.
I guess the point being for consistency, do we want to call it one or the other, or do we want to define both?
That could be your homework assignment, to
dang
define
it.
decorative and ornamental.
How was we talking about?
I think if we're gonna, I would agree if we're gonna have it in there, we should say ornamental means this and decorative means this.
Okay.
Okay. Bring pictures with your definitions.
Ornamental,
That'll make it easier.
be decorative.
Or fences with an open design, wire mesh can be used to contain pets. Have gauge or dark green or with a square or rectangular weave. Chicken wire is not approved. What? Any issues with the open
No,
mesh?
gates I thought was okay, I thought walls was okay.
Lighting.
This is just the freestanding.
Second bullet under B, lighting. Business town lighting located along Washington Street. We're talking about the street lights, right? Sorry. Well, it's not on the buildings. I just want to make sure we have expectation. Town lighting, town with a capital T, I guess means the
Owned by the town.
decorative lights, yeah. Excuse me.
I don't know, Marshawn. I kind of read it as, like, it would include lights that they would put on their building as well.
That's how I read it, like all lighting on Washington Street.
All lighting on Washington Street
In
shall be
accordance,
also in accordance with the streetscape plan.
do we still have eyes on the streetscape plan?
I took a note, what is the streetscape?
Okay,
plan?
yeah, so, again,
Don't know.
I can't recall that. So maybe we need to distinguish that.
Yeah, because the next bullet, freestanding light post shall be compatible with the prevailing and recognized historic architectural character of the town. That feels like it's more in line with our streetlights.
Okay.
Well, because the streetscape was in there in the old version, so you had, like, the,
It's like a small section, right?
well, it was in, it's almost like, so it was in between, like, in here, it was after after you got to the certificate of appropriateness, then there's a whole section on the community design and comprehensive plan, and then a streetscape and site design, so it's in the old version, so that's
Okay.
what it references back to.
Yeah, Martin struck out a lot. I didn't realize he struck out that much.
They were not all his strikeouts, it
Okay.
was the board before
Okay.
as well. I will look at putting that back in there.
Because they did go through appeals, exemptions.
Mm-hmm.
I think exemptions should still be in there. Community design, okay. Wow. Oh my gosh.
Some
Right.
of it was removed so that it would, be addressed in the zoning ordinance as well.
Gotcha, okay. Not be repeated twice. So it seems like lighting, they say freestanding lights shall not exceed 6 feet in height in residential zones, but we have street lights in all our neighborhoods that are taller than that. Freestanding lights shall not exceed 16 feet in the business and industrial zones. So that's our
So-
parking lot lighting.
I think that this can be better clarified, and you can say freestanding lights on residential property shall not exceed 6 feet in height, and then streetlights within HOA community, streetlights within residential communities shall not exceed, and then I would keep it consistent at 16 feet.
In terms of the fixtures, so we probably need to distinguish along Washington Street, because we had this debate before, did the parking lot lighting need to be the Acorn lighting? Or could it be, so I think that's why the hotel parking lot's got the basic ones, the Safeway, all these got the LED ones, CVS has got we have all different kinds of parking lot lighting. So, would be the consensus to add something in there, that parking lot, or distinguish parking lot lighting, and just say parking lot lighting should be compatible, kind of what we do with fencing, shall be of a compatible material with the parent building,
Yeah.
except for lighting along Washington Street.
And the other option that can be considered is having a residential section versus a commercial section.
I
Okay,
actually like that idea, so there's no confusion.
Because then you can get more in detail about what kind of lighting is appropriate for the homes, versus like commercial. I mean, commercially, when they do a site plan, they have to meet a certain, photometric plan and requirement that we put in place with our site design. And so some of the issues they were having is based on restrictions with the 16 feet in height. They were not able to get the same photometric plan. That was something we talked about with the hotel as well, is that the different kind of light versus the Acorn gave them better, shine down on the parking lot for safety. So I think in this case, it helps to separate it.
I like that. I would break it up and do a commercial and a residential, and then under commercial, you can talk about your street lighting and your parking lot lighting.
Because even your fences will be, different. You could have different restrictions. You might allow different heights in different places depending.
Are you talking about doing, kind of breaking up in any of these sections where you're talking about commercial versus residential, kind of designating and separating out the language, so if it's just applicable, if it's more applicable to commercial? I mean, there
I
would be,
would possibly do it so that, like looking at the table of contents, section 2 is the streetscape and site design guidelines. I would almost have two of these sections and have one is residential site development or site design versus commercial site design.
And remind me, are we taking out, so if, are we final on if it's approved by an HOA? You don't have to approve it?
It would be administrative. That's what would make the most sense. Again, that's up to the board. I think that we should include in here administrative approvals and exactly what that entails.
Okay, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's the best use of the board's time, if it's already been approved, to not meddle with the HOA.
So long as it meets the requirements and our standards. And I think, like hypothetically, let's just say somebody wants to come in residential, do a fence, and they picked, again, hypothetical, they pick out a chain link fence and their HOA approves it. And they come to us and we say, you can't do a chain link fence, you can do it in this location. If you change your material, that's fine, we'll administratively approve it because you picked one of our approved materials. I think that's still fine. I would not bring them to the board to have the board say, nope, this is not allowed, we're not gonna give an exception, you need to do a different type of fencing and use the mesh inside.
Do any of the HOAs look at what is allowable under, like if they fall within the town, do they look at the town guidelines to make sure that what is allowable in the HOA is in accordance with the town?
Most of them had that in place when they first came in and developed under the guidelines. Very, very rarely do we have anything that conflicts with our guidelines.
That's right.
Usually, ours are more lenient than the HOA, and the HOA, we had like one instance, somebody came and got something approved through the town, and then went to their HOA after, and so since then we say, nope, you have to have HOA first, because the HOA is like, we're not gonna approve this.
Right. That's what I think it's, and generally, the HOAs are more restrictive, the town, okay.
Okay.
So the feedback on this one was to split it up between commercial and residential, and just write some subsets of standards for each, okay. Telecommunications, dishes, drums, and towers. Trying to think, do we even have drums anymore? Seems like all this should be jettisoned and redone, so.
What is a drum, like
I was
a,
gonna just ask that.
Remember the big, looks like a drum up on the side, like it's the big white,
oh,
ones,
like a
the
big
early
satellite
technology.
dish?
yeah, it looked like a big satellite dish, but it actually looked like a drum, and that was one of the antennas that used to be high up. Remember the old TV towers? They'd have the big drums on them, and then the big satellite ones and stuff like that.
I'm old, but I don't
So-
remember that.
So this is outdated because we don't have that anymore. What we usually have now is the small cell and then the panels. We have the panels on the lights, and this is all in the industrial zone. So
Right, because that's the small cell facilities in the last bullet, that's more applicable to what we see today.
in the zoning ordinance, are we allowed to say? Because we used to be able to say between lattice and like monopole.
I would have to look into that.
So the Telecommunications Act, you can't prohibit the facility, but you can dictate the materials and stuff. I can take a stab at this one based on.
Okay. So screening. Anything there?
Sorry, I was looking up drum antenna. String, this seems to.
I mean, that's gonna be the panels or whatever you put.
But this is not just for the telecommunications, this is for everything.
Yes.
So, power transformers, our meters on the side of the house, our trash dumpsters, by walls, fencing, landscaping, or a combination thereof, so.
Is this another where, because is this gonna apply to, I mean, I guess a residential house is not gonna have a trash dumpster, but they're heating and AC units, do you need to say commercial heating and AC units?
Or
I would
separate
say
them.
yes, I would separate it because I don't think that we would require strict screening for residential units on AC
Yeah,
Or the gas meter.
or the gas.
yeah, I mean, this is another way where you could
Whereas-
put the commercial versus residential.
Whereas like a newer, large building, multi-level, multi-air conditioning units, they're all located on the roof. Of course, we want to make sure those are screened properly.
Or on the side of the building, if you want to.
Anything in this?
Do you
Oh, where
guys
does
wanna
that-
keep-
Where's
Do you want to
Texas stuff?
start the next section, or do you guys want to take a little break before the 7 o'clock meeting, and then we do section 3 next time? Or you guys can send your comments in as well.
I would move that we take a short break and then we tackle that. I think it would be good if we took a pass and then just tried to send comments in a few days before.
Okay, why don't we do that, and then let's go ahead and set another work session for the June meeting? June 15th, if everyone's available at 6 o'clock. We can get all the comments, and then I can take a month to work through a draft, and then we can bring it back towards the end of the summer.
Do you want us to review the changes to this first section, sections 1 and 2 next month? No, just keep rolling? Okay.
Yep, just keep rolling, send me all the comments, that you have for the other sections, and then I'll take one stab at it with all the comments first.
Cool.
6 o'clock, June 15th, work for everyone?
Yep.
This is stimulating stuff, huh?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn our work session?
A
Second.
motion to,
Oh, go ahead.
a motion to.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Adjourn.
So you know what's there,